The Green Party's Spring Conference is getting underway in Liverpool this afternoon. The party's co-leaders, Jonathan Bartley and Caroline Lucas, will be getting onto the stage, I think, in just about over an hour's time. In the joint address, they'll say that the government's Brexit strategy is extreme and amounts to a right-wing coup. Joining me now is the party's deputy leader, Amelia Womack. Amelia Womack, I perfectly understand you're against Brexit. Many people are. Some people call it a hard Brexit. But you're calling it an extreme Brexit. Why is it extreme?
Well, afternoon, Andrew, and thank you for having me today. And it's an extreme Brexit because, quite frankly, nobody voted for this type of Brexit, for taking us out of the single market, to taking us out of the customs union, to potentially turning the UK into a tax haven. We've got people saying that there's going to be a bonfire of red tape, and what we know as is that red tape is actually our human rights, our workers' rights, and our environmental protections, and that we need to be making sure that we do not allow the UKIP, the Conservatives, some of the right-wing press to destroy those rights that protect people.
So if any of that was true, and I would suggest all of it is contentious, but if any of it was true, why has the European Union reaction been so conciliatory?
Could you repeat that?
If any of what you've said is true, why has the European Union reaction been so conciliatory and say, yes, we can do a deal on this?
But it's about the future of the UK. It's about making sure that when we've got the Great Repeal Bill that isn't transparent, that isn't
I'm not asking about the Great Repeal Bill. I mean, how this works is that I asked the question and tried to get you to answer this.
Well, sure.
And my question was, if it's so extreme, why does the European Union, in its response, think it can do business with us?
I mean, because we can have trade deals, but that's not the same as being in the single market. It's not the same as protecting those rights, and it's not the same position to be in. And it's we can be talking about deals, but we do not know what's on the table.
Sure.
And that's why we're also talking about having a ratification referendum, of making sure that the EU referendum was quite simply just the beginning of the process.
No, but it's this word extreme. I mean, you bandy about words like extreme and right-wing coup. Where's the right-wing coup? I missed that bit. What happened in the who led the right-wing coup?
I think when we talk about a right-wing coup, it's about looking at the fact that when we talk about a hard Brexit, it's not about being tough.
No, you talk about an extreme
Brexit.
It's about
something that people didn't vote for, that the Leave campaign did not say we would leave the single market. The Conservative Party manifesto didn't say, the Conservative manifesto didn't have any of this in it. We have a government that is not elected based on these policies. And that is extreme because it means that the democracy has not been at the very heart of this. Extreme Brexit was not hard Brexit, extreme Brexit, soft Brexit was not on the ballot paper, and it was not something that people specifically voted for.
But the Prime Minister said, I want the United Kingdom to emerge stronger, fairer, more united, more outward-looking than ever before. I want us to be secure, prosperous and tolerant. What's the extreme bit in that?
Well, it also feels like they have a blank check to do whatever they like, to push through certain policies as a result of the vehicle of Brexit.
But on the Prime Minister's words, didn't ask about blank checks. The words that she said there, what bit of that was extreme?
I was going to say that it's like she's got a blank check because even though those words might be taken lightly, when you're talking about reducing tax for us to be competitive, where does that end when we need that taxation for our infrastructure, for our NHS, for the very services that deliver the way that this country works, and that potentially by turning the UK into a tax haven.
Well, I mean, except that Labour has accused the government of that. The government's never used these words, but you use the word extreme. But let's just look at the position of the government, a number of things at the moment. It wants the closest possible relationship with the EU. It is in favour of continued participation in NATO. It's in favour of free trade. And it wants to manage migration but not stop migration. Your party is against NATO, against defence spending, in favour of no controls on immigration, and now largely against free trade. I wonder who the extreme party really is. I would suggest it's maybe you.
You just said that the Prime Minister talked about tolerance, yet it's talking about using migrants as a bargaining chip within this deal.
Look, every time I ask you a question, you answer one that I haven't asked you. I'm saying to you that your party's policies on a range of areas, from being against globalization and free trade, against defense spending, against NATO, against any kind of control on immigration whatsoever, that's the extreme policies.
I mean, we're actually not against control on migration. It's about ensuring that we have a more human form of migration that ensures that families aren't separated, that we are able to have nurses in our NHS because they're not being deported as a result of the NHS not paying them enough.
But
quite frankly, at the heart of our policy,
what controls in immigration would you have?
So making sure that we are reuniting families, to making sure that we're not deporting people who don't earn enough in our NHS that deliver fundamental services.
Of course, and these are all
Andrew,
great aims, but they're not controls.
And it's still not an open borders policy, and I think that at the moment just having a very arbitrary tick box exercise for migrants isn't working, and it is ignoring the fact that actually many of the problems that we have in the UK as a result of failure of government policy. There aren't enough houses because we have not built enough housing. There aren't enough. People aren't receiving a living wage because.
You would have the border open, but we should, as many people say, we should build more homes, build more schools, have better public services for the people that are coming to this country. But you wouldn't control the numbers, would you?
And we'd be making sure that families are reunited. It's as a long-term ambition. It would be we would see that an open borders policy would be fantastic. But at the moment, that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about just making sure we're not stopping people coming to the UK as a result of arbitrary reasons. I mean, you might have seen that even for the visa application of this conference, that we had a woman that was turned away because she was single. Somebody who was
turned away because she was single.
Yes, because she wasn't in a relationship, was what our Home Office gave as the reason for her to be unable to attend a conference here in the UK. And when the Conservative government say that we're open for business, it's conferences like this that mean that we're open for business, that we all have that global perspective.
All right, Amelia Womack, we're going to have to stop there, but I thank you for that. Enjoy the rest of your...
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.